But you might have seen clips if you're on X or if you're on any other news outlet, or maybe not in the mainstream media or the newspapers, rather, of Wales. Vale Glamorgan, a Conservative councillor, was recently not only lambasted and kind of ridiculed on the floor of a meeting simply for pointing out the fact that those coming from France across small boats and doing so from a safe country and not fleeing persecution. He stood his ground, and as a result, he was removed. He was removed from the debate floor. He was removed from the council floor. So that's what we're going to be going over today, ladies and gentlemen. This is absolutely shocking. But this comes amidst, ladies and gentlemen, and it's worth remembering, if you live in Wales, we live in a devolved nation, immigration is not a devolved issue. Immigration is not a devolved issue, but yet we have constant being pushed through about nation of sanctuary, right, to the tune of £53 million in untold costs on private services and social cohesion and our demographics, right? At the moment in Wales, we are very, very lucky indeed to live in a very mostly ethnically homogenous nation. But as we've seen in England, as we've seen in many other cities, as we've seen in small towns like Luton, that can very easily change, ladies and gentlemen. Make no mistake, it absolutely is changing, and it's changing very, very rapidly. But all this is being pushed through. Now we have county, we have city of sanctuary, we have county of sanctuary now. So this is where you're seeing this ideology creeping through into all manner of public sector, right? All manner of community. And this is what I mean when I say, ladies and gentlemen, as you will know if you've been following this show for a while, no community is safe. No community is safe from the UN Agenda 2030. No community is safe from the globalist initiatives. They want it all, right? They want it all, in particular the farming communities, because they want to run all the farmers off the farms. They want to put all solar panels, and it is happening. Make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen, there's a farm on a hill just up behind me where I live in the Vale that is plastered with solar panels. Make no mistake about it. In many instances, it already has happened, but it is happening more and more and more each day in the pursuit of suicidal net zero. Whole point is to have us in a society on a farm like Animal Farm. That's the whole point, right? Go read that book if you haven't done so already. But luckily, you do have a few politicians, it seems, that realise the game for what is going on. Like I said, immigration, not a devolved issue. And you need to go look at the Senedd pages themselves to understand this, right? Immigration and asylum are reserved matters, which means there is very little devolved governments can do to change aspects of the bill with regards to the immigration system and stuff like that. However, doesn't stop local councils, doesn't stop National Senedd, the government in Wales, pushing through these suicidally, not even suicidally empathetic, these genocidal, if you want to take it to its logical conclusion, replacement agendas. In the Vale of Glamorgan Council on the evening of September 29th, this was, so apologies, I've been a bit out of the loop recently, a councillor, George Carroll, objected to the County of Sanctuary plans and objected to asylum seekers, quote-unquote asylum seekers, being labelled as being persecuted when they're coming over from France, right? Outright noting the fact that France is a safe country, right? And they tried to force him to go back and retract that statement. And he stands his ground nice and firm. There's a long video on this, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be showing some snippets now. But here is some of the scenes from that. I think it's important for you to see this if you haven't done so already. Here's him talking about the County of Sanctuary bill. And more importantly, a little bit later on, we're going to go over some responses to this. So eyes on screen or eyes or ears listening now, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to want to hear this, I promise you.
In this debate, that it appears as though the vast majority of members here will not be supporting this motion. I would simply point out to all members, given the links between County of Sanctuary status and Senedd members' Nation of Sanctuary project, that opinion polling was conducted on that matter last week, and it showed that the Welsh public want to see this scrapped. So I do think that this debate shows that this council chamber, the majority of members, are out of step with what our communities want to see happen on this issue. Now, Councillor Payne, in her remarks, disputed the links between illegal migration and crime, and Councillor Perks stated that there are no statistics that illegal migrants commit crime. I would simply refer to the fact that the clue is in the name. They are illegal migrants. They are here illegally. By virtue of being an illegal migrant, you have committed a crime. And so I was surprised to hear that statement. Now, the leader, Councillor Burnett, in her comment, referred to this authority's values, and she stated that she wanted me to be a lone voice this evening.
So, a couple of things you shared there, ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to go through. So, immediately, like a hot knife through butter, cut through this narrative whereby illegal migrants don't commit crimes. I've got another clip coming up for you later on where this is dispelled. A Cardiff councillor tried to push through this lie. No surprise, they don't seem to be Welsh, but anyway, we'll get onto that in a little bit. We'll get onto that a little bit later. So, as you said there, this is why they want to push through this narrative, right? That no human is illegal, right? That no human is illegal, because otherwise they have to wrestle with this concept, i.e., the law, so that if you go into a country illegally, if you go into someone's home initially, and this is again why it comes back to the nation simply being a extension, or rather an extension, of this very thing which I'm sat in right now, the home of, well, in a time past, it would have been the home of the Welshman who led the household, right? But egalitarianism has some things to say about that. But basically, again, the Welsh people, it is their home, and if you go into that home illegally, you are committing a crime by definition. Therefore, that human being is residing in this country illegally. And we've seen that these people are everywhere, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to use some examples from the States, they recently took down somebody who was the head of the biggest school district in one of the states. I can't remember exactly which one it was. Iowa or Ohio? I can't remember exactly which one it was, but she's speaking at some kind of conference, press conference or whatever, and not too long after that, he was arrested by ICE because he's an illegal alien. So again, these people are everywhere now, everywhere. Because again, we have no idea what's going on when they come across the boat to Dover. They might go into the hotel. Next thing you know, they come all the way across, and they're in Wales, right? And as we're seeing now, the population demographics in Wales are starting to change. I was looking at the ONS statistics earlier relating to the recent synagogue attack in Manchester, which, no surprise, ladies and gentlemen, the attack happened in a minority British area. No surprise there, ladies and gentlemen. Just under half of the population in the county or in the area that I typed in, Crumpsall in Manchester is white. It's about 48.6%. So no surprise, it was a minority area. But we're seeing now that although Wales at the moment is overwhelmingly ethnically consistent, overwhelmingly ethnically homogenous, they're doing everything they can to try and change that. In many areas in the cities, you do actually have, I'm talking little communities within the cities, right? The cities on the whole, a lot of them like Cardiff and Newport have started to drastically decrease, right? Looking, I think, some of them in the 80% region of what we would assume are native Welsh people or native British people. Some places within that, you have like less than 20%. Okay, it's quite stark if you go have a look at the ethnic makeup, the ethnic graph, the ethnicity graph from the last census in 2021. It's very, very stark indeed. But cutting through it like a hot knife through butter, as I said, ladies and gentlemen, the notion that these people aren't illegal completely falls on its face, because otherwise we wouldn't have to call them illegal aliens or illegal immigrants. Right? They called that thing because they've committed a crime. Which is why, by the way, the dialectical battle is so important. If anybody tells you that words are not important, ladies and gentlemen, you know exactly where they're coming from. They absolutely are important. Because that's why they try to push through these narratives that these people are merely undocumented. Right? Or irregular, as the Home Office and all the others try to push you. Don't let them win this battle. They cannot be allowed to win this battle. We saw with the trans agenda and how pervasive that it's gone, that the minute you even use somebody's preferred pronouns and entertain the delusion, right, that is indeed the start of a slippery slope. And I know the slippery slope is often used as a fallacy, and I understand why, but we've seen a lot in terms of slippery slopes in the modern day, ladies and gentlemen, in terms of other issues as well, many of which is related to this issue. You know, you could make the argument that a lot of it started off with Christian morality going soft on things like same-sex, quote-unquote, marriage and all of this stuff, right? You could make that argument. But again, the minute you start entertaining this stuff, the government has you. The government has you, and you cannot let them win even this small battle. So that's why we need to reinforce it. No, these people are here illegally. And in many instances, we need to win back the case that these people are not asylum seekers. These people are not asylum seekers. Okay? Asylum seekers don't drop their fucking documentation in the channel as they're coming across and smile for new smartphone camera videos, right? Asylum seekers, okay, what anybody says, I've had it in my comment section and stuff like that, are not, 80, 90%, whatever it is, military-age men, i.e. young testosterone-filled men. That is a foreign, in this instance with the UN, right? It's all coming from the UN, the United Nations. That is a foreign military force being installed in this country and all of our countries, bit by bit by bit. And they will hold the whip over us in the near future. Make no mistake about it. Obviously, they've got a target set on 2030 for various their agendas, right? So why the next election, so why I'm so glad at the response that I've seen in the comment section with the clip that I showed of the Plaid Cymru guy, Mabon, that called me a dog for simply questioning or mocking, rather, Nation of Sanctuary. That people can see them for exactly who they are. They don't care about you, ladies and gentlemen. They don't care about you. They care about votes. And they realise how much of a shit job that they've done. They've lost all of the goodwill that they got with the native Welsh and native British public. And so they're importing voters to outvote us and outbreed us so that they can continue to have that voting majority in perpetuity. Make no mistake, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. There's a little bit more in this clip I wanted to flash over for, so I'll flash back to George Carroll in the floor of the Glamorgan Hall for you now.
And that shows how out of touch this authority is, and this administration is, that's the position that she takes. When this is a matter of deep concern, illegal migration is a matter of deep concern to people across our country and within our communities. Councillor Norman called on me to apologise, I think, for submitting this motion. I shan't be doing so. Leadership and public service, it's about doing what is right by the people you represent. It's about standing against the sort of comments that I've heard this evening. I've been accused of many things this evening. I'm not going to let that cower me on this issue. It's important that people are represented. And if a representative thinks that a policy is wrong, as I think this policy is wrong, it's important to say so and to do everything within your power to try and get it changed. So that's why I take...
Yeah, that as well, ladies and gentlemen, because another thing that I've had thrown at me as well for speaking about these things is that, what do you care, or that, why are you like speaking about this? What difference are you hoping to make? He echoed it there. It's like when you see that something is wrong, ladies and gentlemen, it's important to call it out. It's important to call it out. And he's saying there, the people who they are supposed to represent. What people are seeing, ladies and gentlemen, especially if you've watched this show, you understand that what we've seen up country in England, in many areas of Scotland, in many areas in our own cities as well. By the way, as I mentioned before, there were 3 of our counties. It was Monmouthshire, Pembrokeshire and Swansea, I believe, that were implicated in the 85 list, the big 85 list that came out a couple of weeks ago from Rupert Lowe's rape gang inquiry. Right. This is in, again, a very ethnically homogenous nation, and it's relating to the rape of Britain, rape of predominantly white British girls by predominantly Pakistani foreigners and other ethnic minorities as well. And obviously there were other ethnic minority girls as victims within that as well. Okay, but it was predominantly for one reason, or one combined reason, that these rapists did what they did, for ethno-religious supremacy reasons, right? All of the additional reasons associated within that, for power, for drunk on lust and all of these things, this bestial, drive to just conquer, right? And obviously throw in the religious motivations and all of that, right? All of those things can be encapsulated in this ethno-religious framework. So you have 3 counties already that are implicated within covering that up, right, in a very ethnically homogenous nation. So it just goes to show that seemingly you have problems with this wherever there's seemingly any. But again, no direct things have come from that as far as I'm aware, so I'm not going to make that full assertion at the moment. But people have seen, the reason why people are so concerned and hostile at the moment is because, it's what infuriates me when people get into this mindset, and I try to say to people, I'd be like, if you were living in a place like Luton, you'd feel extremely different. People look over, they see what happened, right, and they think, holy shit, that could be here. Holy shit, that could be here. They see what happened in London. They see what happened in Luton. They see what happened in Telford, Oldham. All of these places, right, as Charlie Kirk said on the Tucker Carlson show before he was assassinated, nothing less than an ethnic cleansing has happened in London. Because it's all been done by design, and Keir Starmer said so, which we've known all along. It's been to replace the native British people so that they can be voted out, so that they can be subject to this authoritarian rule, so that they can be subject to digital ID and central bank digital currency, social credit system, all the rest of it, right? It's to provide the reason. It's to provide the reason, right? And in many instances now thinking they have to do it for their own safety or whatever, when we know it's not. I've got some really harrowing video from China to show you what it will actually be like, ladies and gentlemen. And it will be like Animal Farm, which you should really go and read if you haven't done so already. In fact, I might do a members video on that in the near future, because it's extremely, extremely important. This is why the Vale of Glamorgan in this instance don't like it, because this is an example of a councillor that wants to actually see his constituents concerned and sees the danger that is being posed and is rightly in opposition to it. But what happens when he tries to make the point that France is a safe country and we should be looking at this with suspicion because of people coming over from France, right? Because I've made the point time and time again that France, right, is not a safe country in many instances. It's not a safe country if you're a French person. It's perfectly safe if you're otherwise. And think about it, they go through multiple safe countries often to get here. Why? You have to ask yourself why. If it's just asylum, if it's just safety from persecution that they seek, right? Why would either they not go to the nearest safe country or maybe to the next one over to give themselves a little bit of a buffer zone? You know what I mean? But even then, why would they just not go to the nearest safe country? Why do they then keep on going and keep on going and keep on going to this little tiny island? It has to be something else other than safety, because safety was a concern that that was given to them a long fucking time ago in their journey. It has to be something different. But they don't want you talking about this, ladies and gentlemen, as was highlighted when they tried to force Councillor Carroll to retract a statement, which, fair play to him, he stood his ground and refused to retract it, rightfully so, about where they tried to correct his statement saying that France is a safe country. They tried to get him to correct a factual statement, ladies and gentlemen, because as Labour's Elliot Penn, is the name in this instance, was making the point that these people can apply for asylum in whatever country they want. Now, that is not a refutation of whether France is a safe country or not, but he tried to use that as a bludgeon to get Councillor Carroll to retract his statement saying that France was a safe country. Good on Councillor Carroll in this exchange for not backing down, for not kowtowing to the left in this instance, and refusing, even when the leader, whoever it is, I believe is somebody by the name of Marshalsea, tried to get him to retract the statement as well, and he refused to do so. And good on him. Here's that exchange for you, ladies and gentlemen.
Anybody arriving on a small boat is not fleeing persecution. They are coming from France, a designated safe country. It's a separate matter of debate whether members wish to redesignate France as a place that's dangerous.
I'm very sorry.
But I would suggest that is...
Okay.
Point of order. You can claim asylum in any country. You don't have to claim asylum in the country next to the one you're fleeing from. You can claim asylum in any country, George. You know that. So you need to correct that. Okay?
Thank you, Chair. I shan't be correcting that point. It is quite clear that anybody leaving this
Chair,
country...
it's an inaccurate statement. He needs to correct that. You can claim asylum in any country you want, not the country next to the one you are fleeing.
Right, let's dissect this a minute, ladies and gentlemen. He did not say that they could not claim asylum in any country that they wished. He made the case that France was a safe country, and therefore asylum claims, quote-unquote, from that country should be viewed with scrutiny, which is absolutely correct. You see there, he moved the goalpost, ladies and gentlemen, saying he needs to retract that, but it wasn't even a statement that Councillor Carroll made. He did not make the statement saying that they could not claim asylum in whatever country that they wanted. But he was saying that France is a safe country and therefore it should be viewed with scrutiny, the asylum claims from that, because it is likely, in fact, it's blatantly fucking obvious that they are not fleeing persecution, and they're doing so for other reasons. And people can see that. People can see that. And I'm going to play the rest of the exchange in a moment because it's good. Because now you're actually seeing, ladies and gentlemen, by the way, if you're in an area like mine and you hear any term of conservative, right, it brings up memories of like Thatcher authoritarianly closing the mines and all of this stuff, right? Where I'm from, conservative doesn't carry a very good name, but people, without even realizing it, are naturally more conservative in value, whether they realize it or whether they want to admit it or not. They realize that Welsh society is actually a good society and it's worth conserving, which is pretty much at the heart of being a conservative, or, you know, you can take it to greater lengths if you want to call yourself a nationalist and stuff like that. But again, it's about your society and wanting for it to stay as it is because it is a good society. I think pretty much everybody would agree with that. I think everybody pretty much would agree with that. And those who don't, well, maybe you can, you know, find your place elsewhere. For many people, that would probably just necessitate them going back home. Because frankly, a lot of people who are coming in, we've seen it happen in many areas in England. We don't want our communities looking like that. The communities are bad enough as it is due to the socialist government that we've had for my entire lifetime. Our communities have been ruined enough by that. Our high streets and everything have been ruined enough by that. If we look at photos going back 100 years, you know, at our communities, and we despair. We despair at what our communities have been turned into. So yeah. There's again, about governance is a different question about to whether we want our communities and our streets and whatever to be resembling the streets of Mirpur or the streets of Delhi or whatever. I don't think most people would want that. Here's more of that exchange, though, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to see, again, a councillor, he's to be quite a young councillor in this instance, very articulate, a powerful voice, which is good to see, saying, no, I'm not going to retract it because I didn't say anything wrong, refusing to lie in front of a camera where this will be taken and clipped and shown as weakness on that side, right? Good man.
That is true as far as I'm aware. So, Councillor Carroll?
I shall not be correcting that statement. It is a statement of fact that anybody getting into a small boat in France is not fleeing persecution directly. They are fleeing a safe country. If members of this chamber really wish to deny reality on that, then that's a matter for them.
Excuse me, I am speaking. Is that a point of order?
Yeah. You can claim asylum in any country you want, not the country next to the one you are fleeing.
Councillor Carroll.
Councillor Carroll knows that, and he needs to, if he wants to be factual, you need to do it properly and be factual about it, because you can claim asylum in any country you want, not the country next to the one you are fleeing. You know that, and you are misrepresenting, and you are not being factual.
Councillor Carroll.
I'm not going to retract the statement that people leaving France are fleeing persecution. That's simply not the case. France is a safe country. I cannot believe that this has actually become a matter of debate. And that, are you seriously suggesting that France, Councillor Penn may wish to shout disgrace from a sedentary position, but my responsibility is to the people of the Vale of Glamorgan and the people I represent. So I will not be retracting a statement that people leaving France in a small boat are not fleeing persecution. France is a safe country, and I stand by that statement.
Gosh, refreshing to see, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? It is refreshing to see a politician truly stand their ground, especially what we can ostensibly would assume is on the right, on the conservative side. It's refreshing to see, ladies and gentlemen, truly, truly an amazing display there. The Vale of Glamorgan are lucky to have him, even if, again, you heard mention that they were shouting disgrace and all of these things. That's all they have when it gets down to it, ladies and gentlemen. That's all they have, because it's just a complete sunlight light is the best disinfectant, and this is a massive ray of sunlight on all of their truly horrendous initiatives. And as a result, then, like you saw with Mabon or Mabon or whatever the friggin' hell his name is, however you say it, right? All they have when you call them out, and you use, in many instances, in my instance, I used their own fucking words and ideas, right? Played the clip in the last podcast of Linus Mehdi basically insinuating that we should bring tens of millions of Afghan women, right? And we can only assume the dependents and children would come with them then as well, right? They would 100% genocide by replacement Wales multiple times over. When you use their own words and ideas, they don't like it. As a result, all they have is insults. All they have is disgrace. All they have is Chihuahua sent to bark. And that's when you know. You only take flack when you're over the target, ladies and gentlemen. You don't take flack unless you're over the target. So that's what you're seeing there. George is right over the target. You know, Mr. Carroll, sorry, I should address him properly. Councillor Carroll is, again, right over the target and refusing to back off and cede that ground, which we've ceded enough ground, ladies and gentlemen. Something happened recently where allegedly a news headline broke that it was, or a news headline did break, but trying to insinuate that, in fact, Axel Rudakabana was not an Islamist, despite saying, or was not a radical Muslim terrorist, despite saying that even within the article, you had to go all the way down to paragraph 18 to find it, mind, ladies and gentlemen, that he did, in fact, have what is termed as the ISIS training manual. I've forgotten the actual name of the document off the top of my head, but was deemed the ISIS training manual, and obviously had enough ricin to poison the entire community, pretty much. One of the members, Adnan, came out and said, "Can we get some apologies?" And I was like, no, because in all probability, in fact, I'll see if I can find the post that I made on it. Because the biggest thing is, ladies and gentlemen, even if I was wrong on it, on that particular issue, why we shouldn't be apologizing to these people is because we don't need to apologize for being under. We don't need to apologize for being under colonization, ladies and gentlemen. Right. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, it won't let me find the post, but essentially what I was saying, we've had so much done to us that even if this one issue, would be wrong, we don't owe you guys an apology for everything. We don't owe an apology for being under colonization, and the whole thing is very, very convenient because we've seen how the mainstream media, the government, will bend over backwards to protect these communities, how much they will lie, how much we cannot trust them. Right, in terms of the Southport issue, how much they lied to try and push across this agenda that Axel Rudakabana was this little Welsh choir boy and all the rest of it, right? Even so much as putting up those, pictures of him as a child and all the rest of it. And then his mugshot came out and it was like something out of a fucking horror film, right? You had all of these things. And I thought that given, I haven't seen any evidence that, he could be seen as being insane at the time of the attack. There's word that he's been attending the mosque in prison and all of these things, right? Why would we assume anything different, first off, given what we know, and then it's very, very convenient that this has happened. But not only that, don't you think a person who was not in any insane frame of mind, maybe understanding, having grown up in this society and seeing the indoctrination that takes place with regards to us, and basically that they can do anything with impunity. That's basically what DEI is the cover for, to allow them, because of virtue of their race, ethnicity, etc., to be able to do whatever that they want, that he could potentially game the system. That he might have downloaded quote-unquote, anti-Islamist material and all of these things, right, and other anti-Semitic material or whatever, as a cover, so that our media would run with it, so that our politicians would run with it, in the same way that Adnan did. So yeah, no apologies, no backtracking, not one step back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the fucking fight of our very lives. This is the fight for our existence. I made no mistake, it's not just with people here that want to turn our country more into what their homelands look like, to the countries that they come from, and turn it more to what they're used to, right? In many instances, that will naturally result in our second-class status as citizens as we pay jizya and all of this stuff, right? Not only to... I just realised I might have hit the microphone there. Not only that, but they're being used as a weapon on behalf of globalist interests that go far beyond them. The UN and stuff like that, that's the ultimate enemy for us in this instance, ladies and gentlemen. The ones who are importing all of these people here, who our government are truly subservient to. They've decided they don't want to represent us anymore. They could stop it like that if they wanted to. But they won't be invited for caviar and wine at Davos next year. Remember who they sold you out for. If you enjoyed that clip, then make sure to go on over to the Voice of the Valley's X page at VOT_Valleys on X. We're also on Instagram at Voice of the Valleys. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, comment, all of that good stuff. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again soon. Godspeed.